Hey, my name's Zach and I make indie pop music under the name Fanski. Welcome to my new series where we take a deep dive into one of the songs off Help Selfing, my new record set to release on August 2nd. Let's get started.
I can't tell you how. I can't tell you how it feels to be under the problem.
So starting June 14th, every Friday, I'm going to release one song off of Help Selfing, culminating in the full release on August 2nd. Each of those singles will be accompanied by a video like the one you're watching today, going into more detail about the background of the song. If at any time you want to just jump the line and buy the record, you can actually do that. Just go to my Bandcamp, which I'll have linked below, and you can purchase it. To anyone who does decide to buy the record, I just want to say thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate any amount of time that you're willing to give me on this project. It all means a lot, and I greatly appreciate your contribution to this project of mine. If that's not really an option for you, no worries at all. Every Friday you'll have something to look forward to, and all of the singles will be on all streaming platforms, so you can find them there too. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me on any social media that you try not to use. And I think that's it, so let's get started. So the next song we're going to get into is Eat Your Head. Eat Your Head is kind of weird. I think I was listening to Caribou's Suddenly record that came out in 2020 when this idea was bouncing around in my head. It is one of the oldest songs on the record. I've got a demo of it going back to November of 2020, which adds up. And it's just a fun dance track, I guess. It's an indie pop rock song. It's very dedicated to the groove. Obviously, there are times where it bends out of that and gets a little experimental, but for the most part, it stays in that groove. There were quite a few months that went by that I was skeptical as to whether or not this song would make the cut. We had even gone into a studio to track bass and drums. And something just felt off after I got back and started mixing it. After enough time went by and I kind of forgot about it and came back to it, I realized that maybe I could take another stab at the mixing of the drums and the bass, and I'm glad I did because this track really has come a long way. I also was fortunate enough to get my friend Matthew Mazzoni to play a ridiculous guitar solo at the end of it, because why not? It's definitely one of my favorite songs on the record, and I'm just so glad that we actually put it together. Form-wise, like I said earlier, it's pretty straightforward. It just kind of goes. There are definitely verses, there are definitely melodic content that repeats itself. It's not like Away from the Sun, it's not traditional pop at all. It's just kind of what I wanted to write in the order I wanted to write it, and that's kind of it. Lyrically, this song doesn't make a lot of sense. There's some talk about zombies, there's some talking about eating heads, there's some talk about problems, obviously, that would arise from that situation. Personally, there's no meaning to it, which isn't a problem, it's just how it is. I'd be very interested to hear what you all think, so feel free to comment what your interpretation of it is. I was just writing stream of consciousness, and sometimes that's how you make really cool stuff, so I wouldn't change it. Let's go. This song started with a drum loop I created using a Electron Digitact. It's like a drum machine. That one sounded like this. And then I put some pads on it using my Roland Juno 60. That was a basis. That was the first thing I came up with. I liked the groove, thought it was neat. We had Andrew do drums on that, so I added that underneath this to kind of fill that out. And then you got my voice on top of that. Now, the vocals are fairly minimal, though they are very affected.
You eat your head. You eat your head, zombie.
So to ramp this part into the next section, what I was doing is I'll show you on my master chain. I had a vinyl plugin made by Isotope running with a 1950s setting as if it was an old vinyl, so it was very crispy. And then I have this Supermassive, which is a free plugin from Valhalla that I use a lot. It's a reverb delay. And I just kind of affected those, played with them, had some automation, kind of swell that into the next part, and this is what that sounds like.
Guess we got a problem. I can't tell you how. Ooh.
So that's kind of the intro. Once that concludes, it's fairly straightforward. I mean, there's lots of cool little spots, little things that pop up. I originally had the bass line just doing quarter notes, like boom, 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 boom. It was just very consistent. I kind of decided later that it just wasn't interesting enough to hold my attention. Kind of made the whole song seem kind of monotonous. So I went back and retracked the bass and did quite a bit of editing to get it to sound significantly more funky. Patrick very easily could have played this, but once I had spent some time on it, I thought it sounded good enough. So the electronics on it a little funky, but it sounds great. It sounds like I'm playing it, right? Because I mean, that's what it was. It just grooves at that point, so then you have everything else, right? The next part that happens, it's not really a chorus, it's more of just a groove break, I would say. And I had a lot of fun with a lot of synthesizers on this. Here's some examples. For sure, this is a Korg Volca FM. Then I put acoustic guitar on top of that. Then I messed around with putting the drum loop I had created earlier through a couple things in Ableton they call resonators. It's basically, you can create kind of cool chords. This is what that sounds like. You put all those on top of each other, sounds like this. So this next part is basically another verse, but a lot of the instruments have been filtered and kind of panned and kind of made to sound in the background. And then we have another Zach choir, a choir of me's kind of assisting. And there's a kind of call and response aspect of it too that's kind of neat. One of the choirs that I have is this one.
Take your time with me. Take your time with me. Take your time with me.
And then the other choir is obviously lots of reverb effects on it. And so you put those two choirs on top of each other, and this is what that sounds like. I just thought that sounded really cool. So the next thing I'm going to show you is probably my favorite vocal spot in this song. I use a lot of vocal fry in this particular instance to get this kind of effect. There's this one band I've listened to for a long time called Wild Beasts. I've seen them once live and they were fantastic. They are kind of what have always inspired me to be kind of out there with my vocals. This part is definitely inspired off of some of the stuff I've heard them do.
Somebody else.
Yeah, I just love how it sounds. I think it sounds really cool to just somebody else. So it's just a neat idea. Somebody else. It's just cool. So then we get to the vocal solo. I don't have the synthesizer chops that I wish I did. I knew I wanted a solo here. I could probably program something, but I didn't think it would have the energy or the finesse that an actual person playing would give it. But I do know how to use my voice, so I decided to play a solo with my mouth and affect it heavily. So the original vocal take sounds ridiculous, and I know it sounds ridiculous. I knew at the time someone listening to me perform this would think I'm absolutely crazy. But if you stick with me, you'll see that it pays off in the long run. So this is what it sounds like, just completely naked. But then you layer a lot of effects on it, you get this. So we're getting there. There's still something weird. Still sounds bad, I would say. So then what I did is heavily auto-tuned it and gave it a little bit more character with some octaves. This is what that sounds like. Still by itself, it might sound a little awkward, but in context, this is what that sounds like. Kind of a fun little thing. And the last thing we'll touch on is Matt Mazzoni's guitar solo. Sounds fantastic. He gave me a dry, clean guitar tone on it, so I could do whatever I want with that. Fortunately, his take was perfect. So just heavily affected. This is what that sounds like. So collectively, so I think that's all I wanted to share behind the scenes wise on this track. Like I said, it turned out really, really neat. There's lots of different elements to it, and it's definitely worth a couple listens through for you to hear all the intricacies of all of the different things. So in conclusion, I love this song. I think it turned out really cool. I think it's really original. I think Matthew's solo was awesome. I think Patrick and Andrew, who did bass and drums on this, killed it. I'm glad that I pushed through my struggles at the beginning of it. I just really like where it ended up. So once again, if you like what you heard and you want to go ahead and purchase it, go ahead. You can go to my Bandcamp and buy it right now, the whole record. If that's not really a thing for you, no worries. Just every Friday, look forward to having a new single out. So I think that's all I got. Thank you.